Hey, welcome back, guys. Thank you for tuning in to our channel again.
So today we had my mom guest star, I guess, on our channel. She came by to help teach me how to make some herbal tinctures for Loren. Most of this video is of her kind of showing you guys that process and helping explain it so that you guys get a good knowledge of the steps we're taking to help with his gut health and his infections and everything. So that's pretty exciting.
And make sure to stay tuned to the end for an update about my pain management, merch details, and about my other gaming channel.
Hope you guys enjoy the video.
Thank you.
So we've got my mom here today. She's an herbalist, has been for
30 years.
30 years roughly, and we spoke to a naturopath, gut health specialist back when Loren was getting C. diff a lot and stuff, and so she got us on an herbal track for his gut, and my mom is gonna teach me how to make the tinctures for him so that we can give him herbal tinctures for his gut health as well as everything else we're giving him. So that's kind of what we've got laid out here. I'm gonna throw a side note in really quick. You're gonna hear a really annoying beep throughout the video. It's our dishwasher. I have no way to turn it off. Just a small disclaimer, I'm sorry if it annoys you. There's nothing I can do. And then she's just gonna walk me through the process and teach me how to do it. So I'll let her explain stuff from here on out because I don't know anything yet.
All right. Thanks, Loren and Sabia, for letting me join your platform and teach you how to make tinctures.
Yes.
So like Sabia said, Loren was having some bacterial infections with a bacterium called C. diff, and it was causing a lot of problems. And I think since Loren's accident, he's been on so many different antibiotics. Like his gut is probably, like we have a whole bunch of bacteria that live in our gut, and we have good ones and we have bad ones, but antibiotics kill all the bacteria, so he probably doesn't have a lot of beneficial bacteria in his gut right now. And so when they went and saw the naturopathic physician, she's the one that recommended some supplements like probiotics for him to take and trying to get switch over to some more natural laxatives. And so her purpose with the herbs is to target the infection and kill the bacteria. So the other thing I want to say a lot, but
Yeah.
so we're going to make tinctures. She recommended some tinctures, and I want to make it clear that none of these herbs, herbal medicine is not approved by the FDA. And everything I'm going to basically translate what I believe the naturopath wanted these herbs used for Loren. And they're going to be based upon traditional uses and maybe some scientific studies. There's a lot of studies that haven't been done on herbal medicine yet just because there's not the funding for it. But people have used herbs for thousands. Since there's people on the ground, we've been using herbs for medicine and for preventative health. And also the Smithsonian does state that still the world population today, at least 80% of the world population right now uses some form of alternative natural plant-based medicine for health and prevention. So I'm also a nurse, so one of the things I believe in is that Western modality of medicine and the holistic health modality of medicine are like two hands and arms on the same body, and like the body is like health and wellness, prevention, diet, and lifestyle. And that's something we all need to do no matter what modality we practice, if we're going totally Western or totally holistic. So we always need to focus on diet and lifestyle for preventative health. And so the Western modality works on using really strong drugs and life-saving techniques to keep people alive, and the holistic modality is more for like prevention and support of the system. And so without the Western medicine, we wouldn't have Loren here today, because they were able to do these surgeries and use all these antibiotics and all these powerful medicines to keep him with us. And now we want to focus kind of on the health and wellness part of it so he can heal from the inside out, because he's had a lot of trauma and he's got a lot of stuff going on inside of his gut.
You're a natural at this.
Another thing I want to say is all plants have a Latin name. So like Latin names are universal. So most plants have two names in their name. They have the genus and species, and that can be universal. So I can go to Australia and use the Latin name of a plant that might be different from my common name here, but it has the same Latin name. So a lot of herbs will have hundreds of common names per region around the world, but the Latin name's always the same. So I'll use both the Latin common names when I talk about the herbs. So she recommended Allium sativum, which is garlic. Garlic's universal. Everybody knows what garlic is. It's easy to grow. She recommended Arctostaphylos uva ursi, which is also known as uva ursi or kinnikinnick, and that's a native plant that grows here in Montana up in the mountains. It's like a really low-growing shrub. She recommended Glycyrrhiza glabra, which is licorice root, and Mahonia repens, which is Oregon grape, and that's also a plant that grows here indigenously in Montana in the western United States. So I'm going to talk about tincture making specifically first, and then I'll go and do a brief overview about the herbs that she recommended and kind of translate why they're being used. I'm not making any health claims. This is all based, Loren's already been diagnosed with C. diff and also kidney infections, which these herbs are going to really target both of these things. So, do you have any questions yet?
I don't.
Okay. So, tinctures, what is a tincture? A tincture is a fluid extract that usually, most often alcohol-based, which extracts a lot of properties out of plants. So plants have thousands of different constituents in them, and some of them are more water-soluble, and some of them are more soluble by alcohol. Some of them are soluble by oil, vinegars, or vegetable glycerins. So people who are alcohol sensitive, I would recommend making teas instead of alcohol-based tinctures. You can also extract things in like a vinegar base or a vegetable glycerin base, even though the alcohol takes the most out with the water. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to soak the herbs in the alcohol and the water, and that's going to extract all the properties from the plant, and we're going to strain them and squeeze them in about a month, and then that's just a super concentrated form of all the constituents, or many of them, in the fluid. And so when Loren is ready to start taking the tinctures, he'll take like 2 to 3 dropperfuls 3 times a day, and 1 dropperful is equivalent to 30 mLs or milliliters or a teaspoon of tincture. So that is that. So we're going to make more of a standardized tincture. There's this method called the Simpler's tincture, where you can use vodka or alcohol, or vodka or brandy, and they're a 40% alcohol. Today I'm going to use grain alcohol, which is a 95% alcohol. So it's a lot stronger. And the thing I like about using the grain alcohol is I can play with the percentages of alcohol that I'm going to use. So I'm using a grain alcohol that's 95%, and I'm using a distilled water to make up for the percentage. So I'm making the garlic tincture fresh, out of fresh garlic, and the other 3, the uva ursi, licorice, and Oregon grapefruit, we're using dry material and different ratios. So when you're making a tincture, you will do a ratio. So oftentimes it'll be like, so with the garlic, I'm going to do a 1-to-2 ratio. So that means I'm doing 1 part of the herb and 2 parts of the liquid. So the herbal part, when you're making tinctures, is known as the marc, and the liquid is known as the menstruum. So if I interchange those, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I have 80 grams of each plant. And so we're going to do a 1-to-2 with the garlic. So it'll be 80 grams of the fresh garlic and 170 milliliters of pure grain alcohol. So we don't have to put any water in that because there's still water in the garlic. And it's going to extract most of those properties out of it. With the other 3 plants, I'm going to do a 1-to-5 ratio. So I have 80 grams of the plant, the dried plant material, and I'm going to do 400 milliliters, which is 5 times more, of 50% grain alcohol to 40% water ratio. So I'm actually going to have approximately 212 mLs or milliliters of the grain alcohol and 188, did I do that right? Of the water. So distilled water. And we want to use distilled water because it's sterile, there aren't bacteria growing in it, and it's just a good medium to grow things in. So we did sterilize the jars. I like to sterilize jars. At home I just use boiling water, but here we ran them through Sabia's dishwasher, so they're nice and clean. The alcohol is also going to kind of keep any bacteria from growing. And so we'll just dig in. maybe before we actually make the tinctures, we can go over what the herbs are for. Maybe.
Works for me.
So the first tincture I'm going to make is the allium sativum, or the garlic. And so we have the fresh garlic. I've chopped it. It's fresh out of our garden from last fall. In Montana, we do a hardneck variety, so we plant it in the fall, and then we grow it throughout the winter and the summer, and we harvest in late summer, and then it stays good all winter long. So fresh garlic is the best to use for herbal medicine, and crushed garlic is super important because it releases some of the properties. Allicin is one of the chemicals that make garlic work so well. It's also full of sulfur, so it's super good for the body, super good for the skin and the organs. So we're using fresh cloves, and like I said, we're doing a 1-to-2 ratio at 95% grain alcohol. So traditionally, garlic has been used as an antibacterial, antifungal. It's preventative for cancer. It protects the heart. It's really good for the cardiovascular system and the blood. It's good for blood pressure. It's antimicrobial. It's anti-inflammatory, so it's going to help with pain and inflammation. It also protects the liver, and it's a natural antibiotic. Some people, one of the common names in the western part of the United States is poor man's penicillin. So if anybody has garlic, they have like a natural antibiotic. And if you're cooking it, crushing it and chopping it before you cook with it or add it to any, like raw to any salad dressings or anything, you're going to get all those properties from the garlic. So this one I'm going to do, I said I was going to do 170, so we've got 80 grams of garlic, and we're going to do 80 times 2.
It's 160.
It's 160.
Yeah.
I'll do 160 approximately. The other thing that's funny when you're starting to kind of do standardized ones, sometimes you have to end up adding a little more fluid anyways. So that's where the simpler tincture works.
Yeah. Maybe a little.
150. And we'll see how much that covers. So that's approximate. I don't have a graduated cylinder, so I can't exact. So we're going to just kind of guesstimate. So we're going to put that in there. With fresh herbs, you really want it to just kind of barely cover the herb. So a rule of thumb, like if you're doing just fresh herbs, you can fill your jar with fresh herbs and then cover it with your alcohol. Whether you use Everclear, vodka, or brandy, doesn't matter. And then we're gonna just shake it up a little. And this is all gonna be, when it's all done, I'm gonna make single tinctures right now, but when this is all done, we're gonna just combine everything into a formula. And we're gonna have equal parts. There's a little less menstruum in the garlic, but the strength's going to be the same. So as the other ones, they'll have a little more fluid, but the strength's going to be the same. So we're going to there's our garlic. Cool. And I also have a label. So the other thing you want to make sure every time you make an herbal product or do something with tincture making, you want to have the name of the plant. I always put like the Latin name and one of the common names. I put what the ratio is. So like the garlic, I have allium sativum garlic 1-to-2 ratio. I put the percentage of the alcohol, which was 95%, so there's no water in it. There's 5% water that's already in the alcohol. And then that I put organic fresh cloves of garlic in there, and I put the date today. And so we're going to let them sit for a month, and then we'll strain them and add, when we bottle them up, we'll put the date of the day we bottled them. So I'm going to put...
And we'll make another video in a month when it comes time to bottle these in actual little tincture bottles.
So there's our garlic tincture. We'll just put that back here now. The second one we'll do, let's do Uber Ursi, the Arctostaphylos Uber Ursi. This is an evergreen shrub. We're going to use the leaves. And again, I have everything kind of pre-measured. So we're using 80 grams. And you're probably going to have to add more fluids, but that's okay. That's why it's so much fun, because you start out with a standardized and you end up making a simpler. So with dried herbs, usually the rule of thumb is you fill up your jar and you quadruple, whatever, the amount of liquid in there. So this here, I've already pre-measured. I did 212 mLs of the grain alcohol and 188 of the distilled water. And then we're going to just pour that on over. And it looks like it's going to work out really good. put the lid on. And so the thing Sabia gets to do every day, and maybe Loren too, is they got to shake these tinctures at least once a day. Maybe if they each did it once a day, they can take turns.
Get that arm strength in there.
Yeah, so we're going to just shake it up a little. And so that's going to macerate or soak in the fluids in the meantime for about a month. So that is our uva ursi. So uva ursi, so we're doing a 1-to-5 ratio. So 80 grams and 400 mLs, and it's 50% of the dried leaf. So what has uva ursi traditionally been used for? It's used traditionally to treat urinary tract infections, which is going to be great for supporting Loren's kidneys because he has chronic kidney infections as well. But it's super antibacterial. It's antiseptic. It's another one of those antibiotic herbs, and it's anti-inflammatory again. So there's a lot of inflammation in Loren's gut and his kidneys, and so this is going to target not just the C. diff, but any infections. And so the cool thing, some of the studies have found like one of the bacterium it'll kill is like E. coli. So it's just a really strong, astringent, antibacterial, antimicrobial plant. And the thing about herbs that's really cool is Loren's been on so many antibiotics that his system becomes resistant to, like the bacteria become resistant to the antibiotics. And so that can cause bigger problems, like bigger infection. But the thing about plant medicine is these herbs can target those bacteria that become resistant to antibiotics. So that's kind of a cool thing. And that's one of these, all of these pretty much can do that. So this is going to target the C. diff bacterium in Loren's gut, but it's also going to help target the bacterium growing in his kidneys. So that's going to be super sweet. And it's also astringent. So what astringent herbs do, like if you drink black tea, it's kind of drying, and it tones and it gives integrity to the tissues in the body. It prevents things from leaking. So if you think of leaky gut, or if you have bleeding gums, like when you drink something like uva ursi, it's going to tighten up the tissues and dry up the secretions and give integrity and structure to the tissues in the body. So that's one of the other cool things this is going to do. And again, anti-inflammatory, it's going to help with pain. And the thing is, once we can get Loren's gut health back up and healthy again, it's going to make a huge difference with how his body responds to bacteria and infections. It'll hopefully, the goal is to prevent future reoccurrences, and hopefully even if he still gets them, they're going to be less. That's our goal. So there's our uva ursi.
Do I need to keep these in like a calm area? Like, should I put them in a cupboard, or should they be good on the counter? Do I want to?
Well, best place to store them is in a dark cupboard, but also when you're doing them, like somewhere you're going to remember to shake them every day.
Right, so like the pantry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep them dark and cool in the pantry.
Well, and I'm just going to
Shake
set
them
a
today.
timer to shake them. I'll just, because otherwise I will forget. So I'll just set a timer to shake them and keep them in the pantry because that's the best place.
All right, so now we're going to do our licorice.
so
And let me see, we're doing 212 of the grain alcohol and 188. So we're going to get to 400. And we'll do the licorice next. And licorice root's super sweet. So Loren knows all about that.
Yeah.
Because he's making licorice now, right?
Yeah, he currently takes these little licorice tablets that he takes before a meal.
Mm-hmm.
That he
licorice
takes
in there.
before a meal. It's good for him.
So licorice root's super sweet. Super sweet. You want some licorice? No. You are used to it. It's a really
It's
sweet,
intense.
and we're going to use the dried root, and
It's good for your tummy, though.
it's good for your tummy, yes. And so real black licorice is really good for you. But this synthetic stuff, it tastes like it, but it doesn't have any
So do you
medicinal
just
stuff.
chew and suck on
Yeah,
it?
suck on it and swallow it when it's... So we're going to put and these are cut and sifted, all organic herbs. And we're going to put the licorice in, and we're doing the same ratio. It's the Glycyrrhiza glabra, licorice root, 1-to-5 ratio to 50% alcohol. And so we'll just put that in there. Sabia can shake it up. And so what has licorice been used for traditionally? Traditionally, licorice root has been used to support and stimulate the immune system. So it's for deep immune and adrenal support, but also stimulates the immune system and helps get it going to protect against bacteria. So it's also known as an adaptogen, so it helps the body adapt to trauma and stress. It's been used in the past to heal ulcers, which is going to be super good. It doesn't have to be perfect for gut health. Like it's gonna. So when I think of Loren drinking licorice or taking licorice capsules, I think it's like putting a big Band-Aid on the inside of his gut and his stomach. And so it's creating a space where all the other herbs can really work hard to heal and strengthen. And also it increases, so it works synergistically with other plants and medicines, so it actually is going to make the other plants and their constituents work better while he's taking these tinctures. It's a natural laxative, so it's going to help with the constipation, it's going to help with digestion. It's also another anti-inflammatory plant, so we're getting lots of anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antiviral plants here. It protects the liver, so it's really good for liver health, which he needs to, and that's the other thing, like trying to metabolize all these antibiotics and stuff that Loren's been on. Like this is going to help his liver be stronger so it can get rid of the toxins faster and better. Licorice root is contraindicated with people with high blood pressure because it can also raise the blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, I wouldn't recommend using licorice root at all unless you go see somebody who, like a naturopathic physician. So that is our licorice.
I need to pause really quick. I bought them both beds, right?
Okay.
Ace claimed the pink one.
Oh.
And he refuses to sleep in the black one. And whenever she's asleep in the pink one right now, he throws a literal fit. Like I just fixed the black one because he had thrown it on its back and was messing with her, trying to get her out.
Okay, so now we are going to do our Mahonia repens Oregon grapefruit. And, oops, same ratio, 1-5. 50% alcohol.
See him throwing his fit over there?
Oops, I put a little bit more, but that's okay. I don't want to show that. And then we'll get up to our 400 mLs. And then we're going to put our Oregon grapefruit. So Oregon grapefruit, like I said, is another native plant that grows here in Montana. It grows high up in the mountains. It grows close to the ground, and it actually spreads underground by rhizomes. So it has these really cool long roots that you can pull up if you find a really nice humus-rich area. But it's super important. It has something called berberine in it, and berberine is one of the constituents that's really super good for fighting infections. So the cool thing about Oregon grapefruit, so if you've heard of golden seal or barberry, they all have berberine in it. So that's one of the constituents that makes it super strong. And a lot of them have a bright yellow color to the roots. And a lot of things, so for you to note, like foods and vegetables and plants that are like bright yellow in color, all have anti-inflammatory properties to them, according to traditional use and research. So like turmeric, ginger, like all those bright colored plants have good anti-inflammatory properties and help with pain. So Mahonia repens, it's antimicrobial, antiseptic, antibacterial, and it also targets those drug-resistant bacteria. And an interesting study they did is that berberine can actually trick viruses, and it can get into the virus's body before the virus knows it's in there and will kill the virus. And the bacteria does the same thing. They're unable to, like viruses are really smart and they move fast and they mutate fast. So a lot of the plants, they can stay ahead of everything so it'll kill the cell, and then it'll go out and replicate and keep going and going, and it's hard to kill them. But the berberine and a whole bunch of constituents in the Oregon grapefruit specifically it gets trapped inside the virus and actually kills it. So it's kind of cool. It's another liver protectant. So another yellow plant's also good for the liver. So it's gonna help the liver metabolize better. It's gonna help make the liver stronger. So anti-inflammatory, it's antifungal. It's another anti-cancer plant. And it's another astringent one. So we're talking about the uva. We see how it's drying and gives tone and integrity to the tissues in the body. And it also helps heal ulcers, like the licorice. And that's something I'm pretty sure that...
Back when he got H. pylori, they thought he might be developing an ulcer. There hasn't been any follow-up on it yet, but we haven't had any signs pointing to one. But that's one of the reasons why this was one of the herbs suggested by the naturopath because that was back when they thought he might be developing an ulcer. So this will help prevent
This will help
that.
prevent and heal and anything. And also it's bitter, so it's good for the digestion. It's going to help his digestive system. And all these together are going to help increase gut bacteria, gut flora, the good gut stuff, the good gut guys. One of the things like the onion or garlic I'm using, it's called a prebiotic. So it's actually food for probiotics. So when you're taking your probiotics, you're seeding your gut with the good for a place, for an environment for the good bacteria to grow and flourish in your gut. And then like onions and leeks and garlic and even like dandelion root, burdock root, those are all called prebiotics. And so they are actually food for the probiotics. So the more you have those foods in your diet, you're going to have food for your gut bacteria to grow. So that's kind of fun and interesting. So we'll just finish that. And this is all based upon traditional uses of these plants and also from
Shake it
studies.
like
There's a lot of in vitro studies, like studies on rats and animals, where they've shown a lot of this stuff to be true, but there is a lot more research that needs to be done for people. So that's kind of it.
And we'll have her back on the channel in a month. You guys seem to really love my mom at the wedding video. So it's kind of exciting that we were planning to do this anyway, and she could teach not only me, but help you guys understand stuff that we're doing for Loren's care.
And we want him to be super healthy inside and out.
Yes.
And the other thing I'm trying to get him to try is to do a little kombucha every day and a little bit of bone broth, because bone broth has like gelatin and collagen in it, so it's gonna really be like another big Band-Aid on the inside of Loren's gut and in his stomach to help heal anything going on in there. So this is going to be targeting any bacteria really, but we're specifically targeting the C. diff. I'm thinking that's what the naturopath's intention was with this, and any kidney infections. So yeah,
So that's exciting.
Having me and
Thanks for
making
coming
tinctures.
and being our little guest star. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And hopefully you come back in a month for the next little segment we have with my mom. So that's exciting. Thank you guys so much.
Have a good one.
You did it. Thank you.
So lately in our videos, I've been hospitalized and dealing with looked like chronic pain, I guess you'd say. But we've come to figure out that it's a little bit of a dependency issue, and that's just because this last time that I was in the hospital, I spent 5 days in the hospital, and they just let me have a PCA pump and let me go home the next without anything for pain management, and so that's why I was in excruciating pain. But now my pain is fully under control. I'm working with the pain management team again, and we're gonna get me off of everything again. So pain's finally under control, so I'll finally be able to get back to streaming and get back to making YouTube videos for you guys. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to check the links out down below for our merch, donation if you want to, and for our other channel, iAceNation.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as well so that we can stay as active with you guys as possible.
Turn the bell on.
Yes, turn the notification on.